Hi everyone, in this video we are going to talk about what led us to this lifestyle and exactly how we are able to afford the upfront costs, including the cost of our bus build. We will also talk about exactly how much we make each year to keep us on the road. Hi, I'm Morgan. This is Matt. This is Oppie. This is Nandi. And this is our home. Follow along as we travel North America in our 30-foot converted school bus.
So a question we're often asked by people we meet traveling and just other people is how we afford this lifestyle we're living. So far we've been in America for 2 years and we plan to be here for another 2 to 3 living this similar lifestyle. Yeah, so from a young age I had a real desire to make money and save it. I didn't come from a family who had a lot of money, but enough to have a really comfortable life. And so I knew that you could still have nice things and still do fun things without a lot of money, but the idea to be able to save and plan for the future a bit more was what I was really looking into. So at a young age I managed to buy a house, and that's been something that's turned into a rental property as I've begun more travel, and that's really been a backbone for me as a core saving mechanism.
Yeah, and for me, I guess I came from a family that we didn't really have to worry about money growing up. And then when I moved away from home at 18 and then I moved overseas at 21, it was a pretty steep learning curve on finances and trying to sort of figure out how to save money and the ways that I wanted to spend my money. So when I met Matt, we sort of had to compromise on our values and the way that we approach money and find sort of a common ground.
Yeah, and it was really good for me to have someone reinforce like using money a little more freely, because there's no point hoarding it all away if you're not getting anything out of it. And then probably great for Morgan to realise that, okay, you need to plan a little bit for tomorrow or the following year. And a way that we've really done a good job at that is having long-term goals. So, obviously when we were in Australia, we had the goal to be in America in a bus, and now we're in America, we have the goal to be back in Australia, maybe in an expedition truck or another sailboat. So those long-term goals give you something to work towards. So when you are saving and not spending everything, it feels good, but it doesn't hold you back in the present moment too much.
Yeah, and goals as well as like necessities. Even like when we had our daughter, we had planned to have her at birthing center, which was about $6,000. We ended up having her at the hospital, which was 14. So like we hadn't planned to spend 14, but we knew that if it didn't go our way, we could end up spending more. So we had that money there saved, just in case, which thankfully, we had planned for that.
Yeah, and you've got to look at that a little bit. You can't be down to your last dollar on anything, because life can have unexpected circumstances. Yeah, so early on in our relationship, I was sort of doing fly-in-fly-out work at the time, so having a steady base for me wasn't super important. So I'd spent a little bit of time staying at my sister's and in a van I'd built. And then Morgan was living in a share house with some friends of hers. And the idea of moving onto a sailboat and sort of combining shopping and rent and all of those day-to-day expenses together to minimize them was a good idea to us.
So we had combined finances really early on in our relationship, which I know a lot of people are sort of against or aren't really willing to do, but it felt comfortable for us, and I think it worked out really well because we were splitting everything essentially.
Yeah, and I think so too. It helped us just confirm that we're happy with the people we are, and we weren't second guessing what we fully know about that person. We were just like, I know how Morgan lives and runs her life, and she knows how I run and live my life. And that gives you a lot of stability and reinforcement in your relationship.
Yeah, it definitely took a lot of trust, I think, but also built a lot of trust in doing that. So not for everyone, but that is a way that, I think financially, like we've come a long way, and like quite fast as a couple.
So like another thing that we did, like when we were living on the boat, is we stepped from 2 cars down to 1 car. We would ride our bikes as much as possible, walk a lot of places, and we really started to think about where money was being spent and how we could best utilize it. So those are things. We did a lot of shopping locally at farmers markets. We didn't go to supermarkets every week, so we had less of that just getting caught in to just buying little things just for the sake of being there. We were really planning ahead on how money and resources that we were buying would work for us. The other thing, which once you step into that smaller living lifestyle, is it pushes you into a bit of minimalist living because you don't have the space. is the biggest thing. So you can't constantly be buying new clothing or little knickknacks or whatever because you just have nowhere to put it.
Yeah, so after we lived on the sailboat, I had an opportunity to go to Far North Queensland and teach. And in Australia, they give quite a few incentives to go to these remote areas. So one of the incentives is housing. The government provided housing for me to go out there and teach, and then Matt got a carpentry job, and that was a huge expense that was then sort of taken away. We didn't have to pay for rent, which is massive. Not having to pay for rent allowed us to save quite a bit of money.
Yeah, and then living in a smaller community like that, there wasn't as many things to do, so we started to create our own fun. Like, we'd have dinner nights with friends and play games, and we'd go out fishing and camping and things like that. Really, it doesn't maybe seem like a lot, but the less you go out and eat and do things like that, huge difference to your expenses.
Yep.
We both rode our bikes to work every day. Same thing, we stuck with the one car there, one registration, one insurance. All of those things, we didn't have to service 2 cars. That made a huge difference. The other thing is, when we moved there, we didn't have a lot of furniture because we lived on the boat. I'd say we either built things out of plywood and pallets, or we brought second-hand items, and that really decreased the cost of what it costs.
And obviously we did this all with the goal that we were going to be moving to America to build a bus and start a family. So, with that goal in mind, we are okay with having a second-hand couch and furniture built out of plywood, because we knew that this is going to allow us to travel and do the things that we want to do in a few years. And we lived very comfortably. It just was like, we didn't have the flashiest furniture, but that's a sacrifice that we are willing to make.
But it didn't feel like a compromise at the time,
No.
we were missing out.
No.
It just felt like we would just have what we had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, coming from the boat to that living situation, like, we had lived on a 27-foot boat, and then we moved into a 3-bedroom house. So already it was more than what we felt like we needed. So having those little few extra things, like a couch and an outdoor table, no matter what sort of style they were, it felt like almost like an upgrade.
Yeah, definitely. But so that really set us up in a position to start to plan ahead, to be living in America and saving our money. And we very quickly got into a saving routine where we could start to predict how much money we would have by the time we moved to the States. So we could start to think about our budget for building the bus, how long we could sustain this lifestyle. So obviously we had 2 years working in this remote community, really grinding hard and saving. So we knew the rough budget we had to build our bus. So when we first moved to the US and we brought and fitted out our bus, that was all done with savings from Australia. The money we were using to live on for groceries, medical bills, etc., that was also done through that savings. And when we built the bus, we didn't just go crazy and buy every single thing we wanted, but we made sure we built it economically but also comfortably.
Mm-hmm. So in total, what we had saved while we were living remotely was about 200 grand.
That's Australian dollars, so that
yes,
maybe equivalates like 140 US or something.
Yeah, so that's what we came to America with, and then we straight up we pretty much spent about 40 to 50 grand of that building out the bus. So in that first 4 to 6 months, we spent like a third of our savings just on building our home.
Yeah.
So now we're going to talk about the numbers and actually how much we make sort of on average.
Yeah, so touching back to that home I bought when I was younger, that now makes an income of around 7,000 or 8,000 a year. So that's something we have that goes into a bank account to use for this life.
And then for the last year, I've worked for our family's nonprofit, and I just work 2 days a week, but I make about $18,000 a year with that.
And then, because my skill set more is physically working on something, I don't have the amazing skills like Morgan to create things. I've
just our homes.
Yeah, so I've brought and sold a van. So we brought it, I fitted it out into a camper van, then sold it. That made around $15,000.
Yep.
And then another time when we spent a lump of time parked up is I just got a job working at a local trailer repair place, and I worked there for 3 months and made around $10,000. So those bits of money have kept us have kept us going.
The other thing that we are quite aware of is like when we need to stop and make some money, we're not afraid to park ourselves up in Arizona or go to Oregon for a few months and make a little bit of extra money so we feel comfortable, and then get back on the road, because there's no need to feel financially stressed, and we always like to have a bit of a pocket to sort of, to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the last way that we make money is we do YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and I think we've made $0
on that. Yeah.
Like and subscribe. Yeah, so in total, on average, we make about $30,000 to $40,000 a year, depending on sort of what we've done for the year. But we don't always use that. So we do live very frugally. That being said, we're also able to do the things that we want. So we can go stay at a national park for a few days when we want. We're gonna go to Australia later this year. Like, we're still able to afford all those things we want. We just plan for that and know that, okay, if we want to do these things, we have to cut back this, or we have to make a little bit of extra income, which means that we might park up and, find work for a little while.
Yeah, exactly. So to just be able to freely go down to Baja and just fully enjoy it for 2 months.
Yeah.
We did 3 months worth of work here. And obviously we didn't spend all that in the 2 months, but we knew we needed a bit of buffer to go and have that full lump of time away and fully enjoy it.
But I do think that people get in their head that it's a really extravagant lifestyle, and we're very lucky and we're very fortunate, and there's a lot of freedom that comes with this lifestyle, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to be spending a lot of money to make it happen. There's expenses up front, for sure, but there's expenses with buying a house or paying rent or anything really worth living. So
yeah, and like sometimes it's like, oh, we don't have that large stack of money anymore, but we have a large stack of photos and memories, and we can't put a price on the life we're living right now. The time we're having with each other as a relationship, the time we're having with our daughter while she's young and why she wants to spend lots of time with us. And also the time we're having with Morgan's family. We're not always going to be able to get so much time with everyone, and we're really lucky to be capitalizing on that now, and this could cost us twice as much. It would be well and truly worth it. We will try and make, videos like this occasionally, breaking things down a little bit more into detail, because we want to support other people to live this lifestyle if it's something they choose. But if there's questions that can help us build those videos and really tailor them to the information people are wanting, we can do that.
Yeah, so if you've got questions, just leave them below, and we're always happy to answer questions. Feel free to ask them, and we will try and respond as quickly as possible and give you as much information as we can.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks for watching this week's episode. Make sure to hit the subscribe button to follow along as we continue to travel North America.